tarot readers, or if you're watching this video, mediums. You may be a medium or you may be wanting to work as a medium. So in this video I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, about working as a medium, and give the reason as to why I, even though I'm a medium, don't sell sessions only of mediumship. So let's get straight to the video. So if you wanted to work as a medium, there's quite a few things to consider, and I don't know where you are on your path, but the first thing, the most important thing would be to learn how to do mediumship. That would be the most important thing. So you're either born as a natural medium or you take a mediumship course, but learning how to communicate with spirit is really important. But also learning how to give a spirit message, that's really important, because you may be able to see, sense or communicate with spirit, but you may need to learn how to give that spirit message. So learning how to be a medium should be the first thing that you do. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to imagine that you've learned how to do mediumship, you know how to communicate with spirit, and now you want to work as a medium. So this is my little tips to you and some things to consider. First, it will depend a lot on your business. So if you're doing this as a hobby, this is a pastime, something you're very passionate about, but the financial side or the business side of this is not important to you, then this video isn't so much for you. This video is more for those who want to work as a medium. And when I say work as a medium, I mean get paid, pay bills, pay taxes, but work as a medium. So this is where I'm focusing on in this video, and not so much mediums who want to do this for their own enjoyment. Also, then, once it becomes a business, once it becomes your work, it will also depend on what kind of level you need your business to be at. So if you have different sources of income and this is kind of a second income, or if you've got other money coming in and this isn't so important to you that your business pays for everything, obviously it's going to be very different than somebody who runs a full-time business depending solely on the spiritual field. So let me just get that out of the way first. It will depend a lot on what kind of business you're running. So let's just say that you're running a business or you're working as a medium and you need to get paid for that. Okay, so the next thing would be to think, how are you going to do this? So let's just go through the different ways of working as a medium. And if you wanted me to do a video on the different types of medium and the different types of mediumship, let me know in the comments and I'll get on that. So let's say you're a celebrity or a famous medium. Maybe you are. But if you've got an audience where per session you've got 1,000 or 5,000 clients per session, it can be easier to be able to give mediumship because you've got more probability of spirit coming through and of you connecting to somebody in your audience, to one of your clients or many of your clients. So obviously having 1,000 people, 5,000 people, it gives you a lot more probability that spirit are around and that you can communicate and connect with people from your audience. So if you was a celebrity in that sense, then it may be easier. If you're not a celebrity but you're a medium who works giving demonstrations, maybe you do it in venues, maybe you do it in different public places, but if you're a medium that gives demonstrations, then again, maybe it's a lot more easier because in a sense you may have 50 people as an audience, 100 people as an audience. So again, you've got more probability of spirit being there and also you connecting to people in your audience. If you was to give small groups, let's say you do this from home, maybe you do it one-to-one from your office or from your home, or you do it via video call, and you're doing small groups, it may be a little bit harder because to find small groups of people, let's say a group of people of 10, and out of 10 people, maybe you only connect to 1 or 2 because there's only spirit for 1 or 2, or you're only connecting to 1 or 2 people from the audience. That means, maybe 10 people are coming and 9 people are paying and only 1 person are getting a message, which in a way that's still brilliant. That doesn't mean you're a bad medium. That's fantastic for you, fantastic for that person. But it will be harder for you to constantly and consistently get small groups of people who are willing to pay and may not all get the message. And then we've got one-on-one, where we're working directly with a client, whether it's in person or over video call. And if you're working directly one-on-one with a client, that's where it can become very, very hard. And the reason for that, and the reason for all this, is that sometimes spirit are not there. Sometimes spirit don't have something to say to the loved one that's in front of you. So of course, if I've got Mary in front of me and there's no spirit that wants to speak to Mary today, maybe they have nothing to say to her. Maybe they've already spoken to her in a different way. Maybe they've come through in a dream, or maybe they want to do it in a different way and not via a medium. There can be many reasons why Mary hasn't got a spirit communication today. And it could be that she's not long been to somebody and had a communication from spirit, or like I said, she's doing it herself. Whatever the reason, you're not sensing anything from Mary. The other thing could be that maybe there is spirit there, but you're not really connected. Maybe you're not connected to Mary. Maybe you're just not flowing with that energy today. So that link of three isn't working. If you was in a venue of 5,000 people, 1,000 people, or 100 people, then maybe if you don't feel nothing for Mary, you can go on to Joseph, or you can go on to Jane. You've got more chances of going on to a different client, and then you're going to give your mediumship. Maybe you connect stronger with Jane, or maybe Jane's got a lot of spirit there that want to communicate, or at least a spirit there that wants to communicate. So that's why working in bigger venues is a lot more easier in that sense. But working one-on-one can be a problem, because with mediumship you solely depend on spirit, and if spirit are not there, then you've got nothing to say. There's just not very much you can say if the spirit are not there giving you messages. And if you've got a business that's depending on that time slot being filled, as a lot of spiritual business owners do, what you're going to do now with Mary? What do we do with Mary? Now maybe Mary has paid for the session, you've arranged to meet it, it's been booked for weeks, and now we're sat there and we're feeling nothing. So of course Mary's got nothing, because you're not connecting, so now you have to give a refund or you don't charge Mary. And as a small business owner, that can be a real hit on the business. To have a business that depends on mediumship on demand, where you're literally saying to spirit, I've got Mary at 6 o'clock, please come through, and spirit will be like, yeah, sure. Or they may say, actually no, we've got a different plan for Mary, or we've just communicated with Mary, or we've got nothing to say to Mary, or Mary's in the middle of a lesson at the moment and we don't want to have that communication. That's going to be a massive hit on your business. So yeah, it may be that you've got Jane at 10 o'clock and that was brilliant, and you've got Joseph at 1 o'clock and that was a brilliant mediumship session, but you've still got Mary at 6 o'clock, which you're not charging for, and now you've wasted your time and her time. Now of course I'm talking about the financial side, because when you run a spiritual business, obviously the spiritual side is important, but the business side is also important, or else it's not a business. It can just be a massive loss, and it can, you know, as a hobby it can be great, but as a business it can be actually crippling if you're constantly giving money back. The other side of this is the amount of pressure that's involved when you are doing just mediumship. For example, if you was just a medium and you was only charging for mediumship, Mary may come with these expectations of what a medium is for her. She may also come wanting to speak to her dad who passed in spirit, and she may want certain messages just to come through. And if you kind of connect to Uncle Paul, who doesn't give her the message that she wants to hear, and it was only a short message, then Mary could be really disappointed. So even though you're charging her because you did get spirit communication, she's still disappointed because it wasn't the communication that she wanted, and it wasn't the message that she wanted. So you're now going to have this kind of speech where it explains to people, you may not get the spirit that you want to get, you may not get the message that you want to get, but just appreciate appreciate all the messages that come through is the message for you on the day. And you may have this speech prepared, but that still won't kind of lessen the blow that Mary may go away feeling very disappointed. And if Mary got nothing and she's booked up with this medium and she's looked you up and she thinks you're a good medium, she's vibed with you, and on the day she gets nothing, Mary may actually feel quite bad. She might be thinking, oh God, I didn't even get any spirit messages, and I went to the best medium I could find and I didn't even get a message, nobody come through for me. So she may actually feel worse than she did before the reading, no matter how many times you explain, well, sometimes this happens and spirit are not always there on demand. So there's so much pressure for a medium to work one-on-one with people. There can be so much pressure there to make sure that your client's happy, spirit are happy, and that you find that perfect balance. Again, if it's a hobby, it can be really hard and there can be a lot of pressure, but at the same time you're just enjoying it. When you're charging for it, it takes it into a whole other ball game. And when you're depending on that money for your business, because your business revolves around that, then it's a whole other ball game. So just remember that if you are thinking about working as a medium, doing one-to-one sessions, just remember that there can be a lot of pressure involved. And that is why I'm a medium. I've always been a medium. I don't know if you've read any of my books. You can read my books. They're on sale on Amazon. And that's about my life as a medium. And just while I'm talking about my books, I just want to say I also have the hardback cover now. So it's a beautiful hardback cover and it just makes a gorgeous gift and it's a beautiful book. But if you have read my books, you do know that I am a medium, but I don't sell medium sessions. When I was kind of doing this as a hobby and working at it, but it wasn't professional and it wasn't my only income, it was so fun. It was amazing. I absolutely love doing mediumship. I love doing one-to-one mediumship. I love doing stand-up mediumship. I love doing stage mediumship because the pressure of not getting anything isn't so bad because you're just like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't get nothing. But when there's a lot of eyes on you, or when there is a pressure because somebody's paid for a service and now you're giving a professional service, the pressure is like very heavy. So the way I've got round that is because I've always had this kind of weird passion and obsession for tarot, and I've always been a tarot reader. I bought my first deck of cards at the age of 10. The way I do it is I combine my tarot service with my mediumship. So on my website, underneath readings, you'll see I only sell tarot readings. And it's very clear, I make sure people know that I am a medium. And during the tarot reading, I may get some spirit communication. And that's quite clear on my website. But you're paying for a tarot reading. So if I don't get mediumship on demand, if no spirits come through because they didn't want to communicate with you for whatever reason, or because I wasn't in that flow, I know I can give a tarot reading. I know I can give a tarot reading. I don't need spirit to give a tarot reading. So I know that I can give the reading, and that stops me from having to refund people and having to explain to people, I'm really sorry you didn't get any messages. But again, if you're only doing maybe a couple of readings here and there, you might not notice it very much, but I work full time doing this, so you'll be surprised that I do a lot of tarot readings where I don't get spirit messages, because also I have a lot of clients that don't want spirit messages, they just want the tarot, and spirit kind of know that. But it is on my website, so people are really clear when they get a reading with me, they may end up also with spirit communication. Also, can you imagine the pressure, not only for a medium, but for a medium who's wrote 2 books? And of course, in my books, I've wrote all the best experiences and the best stories and stories from my heart that are, absolutely incredible. But can you imagine somebody booking a reading from me, the expectations that they're going to have every time? Like, wow, I've read Gaynor's books, and this expectation of me giving the same kind of readings constantly on demand as I'd wrote in my books is a lot of pressure. So my tip to you, if you're going to start working in mediumship, try and combine it with something else that you don't need to depend on spirit in that moment. So maybe you're a healer and you can actually use it, combine it with your healing. You can let people know, look, I'm also a medium. If any messages come through, I'll give it to you during my healing or during your tarot. Or if you're an astrologer, or if you're whatever it is that you offer, another service that you offer, where you can combine it. Of course, you can work as a full-time medium and just do mediumship, but it gets to the point for a lot of people, and of course I'm not saying everybody, because there is some full-time mediums out there and they do it fantastically, and this is definitely not for everybody, but there is some that the pressure gets so much that they get to the point where they have to squeeze what isn't really there. And sometimes they have to give messages that may not be spirit messages. Instead, they may be psychic messages, but they're passing them off as spirit messages, which in itself is great, but it's not right. Also, sometimes we're getting mediums that end up, and I've seen this with friends who are mediums, and I've seen this with famous people who are mediums, that have got to a point where you look at them afterwards and you go, that didn't ring true. That wasn't right. There was something off with that, because they've got to that point where the pressure has been so much that they've had to give mediumship on demand, and if spirit are not there, then not only are they squeezing out what's not there, but some do lie. And that's why a lot of mediums have bad reputations as being charlatans, because there is some charlatans, but also some of them were genuine mediums, but the pressure got so much they turned into charlatans. And I'm sure we all know one or two that has done that we've found out afterwards that they've kind of made up stories. So I never wanted to be in that boat. I never wanted to work in a pressurized situation anyway. I just don't want to go to work feeling the pressure of having to give mediumship on demand, because it takes away the joy. It takes away all the fun out of my mediumship, especially writing 2 books that have been bestsellers, and I get a lot of clients that have just read the book and book up with me, and it's like, wow, I'm not going to walk through walls here. Maybe it's going to be the best reading I've ever given, or maybe no one's going to come through. I can't guarantee that. I just can't guarantee what spirit are going to do, but I can guarantee that I'm going to give you a tarot reading. It's going to be very, very unusual that I give a refund for tarot reading, because I can normally do that on demand always. So that's the reason I wanted to have this little conversation today, just to say to you, if you're thinking about it, then, and you can do it, if you can do it and you don't feel pressurized, that's great. Go for it. But if you're feeling already that, I've started doing mediumships and now I'm getting paid for it and I'm working my business around this, but it's starting to really stress me out. I'm starting to get a bit paranoid here, and I'm starting to really sweat before a reading now. And it's taking away all that kind of magical energy that I was doing before it become a business. Then maybe focus your business on doing something else and combining the mediumship. And also, I'll just say something. When you give a mediumship reading only, there's so much pressure, and the slightest little thing can disappoint a client. When you're doing something else, like in my case, tarot, and then you get the slightest thing in mediumship, it's often embraced. There's a huge difference from the expectations from your clients as well. It's like, I went to a medium and she got me uncle and she said this and that and blah, blah, blah. It was good, but she didn't talk about my dad, and she didn't do this and she didn't do that. Whereas if you're doing your tarot and you do get a spirit connection and it's from their uncle, afterwards they're like, oh wow, I had this tarot reading, and when she was doing me this reading, my uncle come through in spirit. So I tell you, I've done thousands and thousands of readings, and the difference of the way that your client can take it as well is really big. There's something else as well. Sometimes we just want to give and we feel bad because we didn't give, and we're disappointed more in ourselves than our clients are with us. And that can also be a whole different type of pressure. Sometimes we want to give more, we want to say more, we want to do better, and we have to give what we get. And imagine a client came and we did get the dad. Say Mary wanted to speak to her dad, and we did get Mary's dad. But Mary's dad had very little to say and gave us a little tiny bit of information. What do we do then? Now, well, we have had spirit communication, and he only said 3 things, but my time has been there. I've done my job. It's not my fault he didn't speak. Do we give the refund or don't we give the refund? Mary's only had a little bit of time and you've said 3 things to her. So, you know, that's really hard to weigh up as well. When you do your job as a medium, but you're depending on spirit to communicate, then that's kind of hard as well to decide when to give a refund and when not to give a refund. The last thing I will say is that working as a medium is absolutely beautiful. I have got experiences that I've wrote about in my books, but also experiences that just to think about them, it just brings up this feeling of gratitude and joy, and it's just amazing. The stories that I've got with mediumship is just incredible, but I will also say it can be very sad. So when we're doing mediumship, of course we have to remember, yeah, we talk to spirit. What do? I speak to spirit. I communicate with spirit. I connect with spirit. But at the same time, what we're really doing is we're talking to the dead. And often your client will have the sadness, the grief, the loss, and all these emotions connected. And yes, it can be beautiful, that connection. But it does mean that often we can spend the whole day just talking about how somebody died, what the last words was, what happened before they died. All the pain and the hurt from your client may come through. Maybe they'll explain it to you, maybe they'll tell you stories. And depending on where your vibration is, it can be very, very sad. I know years ago, my vibration now is very different anyway. I've got a very high vibration and strong vibration. But years ago, it was so hard sometimes, especially like when my kids were young and I would have spirit children come through around the age of my kids, and it was just heart-wrenching, absolutely heart-wrenching. I've cried tears and tears and rivers of tears for other people's loss, people that I've met for maybe 40 minutes, and I've cried for weeks over their loss. But not only that, the paranoia that can set in because you suddenly see death everywhere, because you're hearing about all these experiences of how people died, and suddenly it's like, oh my God, yeah, that guy died here, or that guy died doing that, and that child died by doing this, and the paranoia that can come in as well. That's a big thing. And also just the fact that we are talking about death all day long and communicating with people who have died, and we're often communicating with people who are grieving in some way or another, but that loss is there. So yeah, it's fantastic, it's beautiful, but at the same time it can be very draining and very sad working as a full-time medium, whereas if you combine it, you kind of got that balance as well. So I hope you like this little video. If you did like this video, hit like, touch subscribe, and please share me around, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.